Hi, I'm Ashley and welcome back to my channel. So the time of filming this video is December 5th and yesterday was my birthday. So every year on my birthday my husband takes me to Barnes & Noble and I pick out some books. So I'm here today to share my Barnes & Noble birthday book haul with you. So I ended up getting 5 books and they're all YA fantasy books. And I think that's just like the mood I'm in lately is I'm craving YA fantasy because a lot of YA fantasy is just like comfort reads for me and I really need comfort reads in my life right now because it's been very stressful. And 3 of the 5 books are sequels to series and then the other 2 are books that are either the first book in a series or a standalone. So let's go over the sequels first. So the first one I have here is Firebirds by Kate Armstrong. And this is a sequel to Nightbirds, which I read back in June of this year. And I really enjoyed Nightbirds. I ended up giving it 4 stars. And the way it ended on a little bit of a cliffhanger. So I'm super excited to read more of this series. In Nightbirds, takes place in a world where the city that the book takes place feels a lot like New York during the 1920s, but instead of prohibition on alcohol, you have prohibition of magic. And our story follows these 3 girls who have magic. But the thing is, they can't use their magic themselves, but they can gift their magic to someone temporarily through a kiss, and then that person can use their magic for a short period of time. And they are part of this system known as the Nightbird system, where they have clients who they gift their magic to for a price. And their identities are kept a secret because they all wear a certain bird mask. And so I had a really good time reading book 1. I really loved the characters and the magic system and the story, and I'm excited to see where things go in Firebirds. And the second book I picked up was Wisteria by Adeline Grace, and this is the 3rd and final book in the Belladonna trilogy, which I feel like doesn't really need an introduction. I feel like it's a book that's been talked about a lot in the book community, but in case you don't know, book 1 follows Signa, who is a girl who can see and communicate with death, and they work together to solve a mystery. And then her and Death's story continues in book 2, but in book 2, Foxglove, you also get chapter perspectives from Blythe, who was introduced in book 1 and is Signa's cousin. So the story of Death and Signa pretty much wraps up in book 2, and so book 3 is going to be focusing on Blythe and her story. And I feel like I loved book 1, and book 2 took me a little bit to get into. I feel like part 1 was really slow, but then once I got to part 2, like things really picked up pace and I ended up really liking it. And it also took me like a moment to adjust to getting Blythe's perspective, but by the end of book 2 I really enjoyed her characters, so I am excited to finally read her story. And I also just have to say that this book is gorgeous. Like here is the front of the naked hardback, which is super pretty. And then the spine, and then the back is also really pretty. And then also the end pages are gorgeous. And my edition is the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition. Alright, so the 3rd and final sequel that I got, and the one that I am most looking forward to out of all of these, is Where the Library Hides by Isabel Ibanez. In the first book in this series, What the River Knows, was one of my favorite books of last year. And this ended on such a cliffhanger. I was so mad. If you read this, then you probably know what I'm talking about. The epilogue at the end of this was just evil. And so I'm super excited to finally have this in my hands. And then I was flipping through this and the dedication in here just like made me laugh because it says, "For the readers who stayed up all night agonizing over the epilogue and What the River Knows, this is dedicated to you." I was like, yep. So I just found that amusing. And like Wisteria, this edition is also really pretty. Here is the naked hardback front cover, then the spine, and then the end papers. I'm also like slightly nervous to read this too because I am slightly afraid that it's going to break my heart. But I'm hoping that's not the case and that it lives up to my expectations and is wonderful. And in case you don't know what The River Knows, the first book, follows our main character, Inez, and her parents are archaeologists, but at the beginning of the first book, she gets a letter from them saying that they are dead. And so she ends up traveling to Egypt by herself without permission to try to uncover the death of her parents. And once she's there, she ends up meeting Whit, who is her uncle's assistant, because her uncle is also an archaeologist. And Whit and Inez, like, I just loved their romance and their banter. It was one of my favorite parts of the book. And so I can't wait to read this. So now let's talk about the two other books that I got from Barnes & Noble. So the first one is Divine Mortals by Amanda Ellender. And this one is a standalone. This one came out this past October, and it's also one of the books that I talked about in my September and October releases video, and so I've been intrigued by it ever since I made that video. And so this one follows a main character who can divine people's soulmates. And so one day she is invited to the palace to divine the king's soulmate, because the king is dying and he doesn't have an heir. So they need to get an heir before he dies, otherwise the kingdom will go to ruin and all the magic will also die with the king. And so that premise alone pulled me in. But also, before I buy a book, I like to read like a little bit of it. So when I was at Barnes & Noble, I read the prologue, and oh my god, the prologue was traumatizing, and it like pulled me right in, and like I kind of forgot I was at the bookstore. That's how like engaging the prologue was. So just from reading that, now my expectations are even higher for this one, so I'm hoping I love this. And then the last and final book that I got at Barnes & Noble was another book that came out recently in October, and is The Dagger in the Flame by Catherine Doyle, and this is book 1 in a series. This is another one that I also mentioned in my September and October releases video, and I have been intrigued ever since. And since I've made that video, I've also seen like quite a few booktubers picking up this book, so that's making me even more intrigued to read this. This book follows two rival guilds, the Cloaks and the Daggers, the Thieves and the Assassins. And our main character, Seraphine, her mother ends up being killed, and she ends up seeking shelter with the Cloaks, and she blames the Daggers for her mother's death. And so she wants revenge. But she ends up encountering this young man who she is attracted to, and he ends up being from the rival guild from the Daggers. And so this book just sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. And also this one also has pretty end pages. And the naked hardback also has a design on the front and a design on the back. I feel like one of my favorite things now is just taking the dust jackets off books and seeing if there's something like cool underneath. And it just makes me happy when there is like something underneath. Alright, so those are all the books that I got at Barnes & Noble on my birthday. But before I end this video, there's one other thing I want to do. So our Barnes & Noble is also right near a mall, so whenever we go to Barnes & Noble, we usually end up going to a few stores in the mall as well. And one of the stores we ended up going to was Newberry Comics. And I ended up picking up a little blind box of Frieren figures. I love the Frieren anime. I haven't read the manga yet, but I love the anime. And my husband actually got me these 3 for my birthday. But I haven't opened this yet, so I thought I could do it on camera with you all. I feel like I'd be happy with any of these except for the evil demon guy. Which, now that I said that, that'll probably be the one I get, but let's see. Oh! It's Frieren in the treasure chest. I was not expecting that. But it is like right here. Exclusive A. That's fun, though I feel like it's a little big to put on like my purse or something. So maybe I'll just put it there for now. Alright, so that's the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you've read any of these books, let me know what you thought of them down below. Or let me know down below what is a book that you really want that you have on your holiday wish list this year. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye!